Greetings. Welcome to Dr. Neil's Spiritual Awakening to Non-Duality. This is Dr. Connie Zweig, and I'll be interviewing my husband who lives in spiritual awakening. You may have heard about this or read about it, but you may not know someone who lives it day to day. We'll be exploring how non-duality developed in Dr. Neil as I've observed it over 25 years, and as he directly experiences it every day. Each podcast will explore a different theme. We look forward to you joining us. Today we're going to explore part 2 of Who Am I? Living as a Soul. So we explored, in the last podcast, we explored living our local identities, living our individuality, identifying with our bodies or beliefs, our ethnicity, our age, our roles. And today we're going to look at the next stage in evolution. Dr. Neil?
Yeah. So I'm aware that I'm a soul. And a soul is who we are. So where did I come from? Where was I created? Well, there is what we call all human beings are part of one soul, one conglomerate soul. And out of that soul is born individual souls. And this I remember.
Wait, stop there. What do you mean? You remember your individual soul emerging from the group soul?
Yes. And not just the group soul, the human soul. The human soul emerges into group souls as well, souls that have common missions and purposes, who are part of the same team. And
is that why we feel affinity or resonance with certain people instantly?
yes, because you have the same soul purpose, same reason for being here in this place. Now, souls are part of this human soul, and this is our second planet. I'm aware that we have been in one planet before this, as let's call it human souls, although we were not in a human form. And we have other planets or systems that we'll move to after this one.
So we were talking about who am I? Identification.
Yes.
How do we move to identifying as a soul? And maybe we need to define what soul means in that context.
Yes. So as a soul, I am infinite. I'm unbounded. I'm everywhere. I'm capable of being all. And I do not have a beginning, and I do not have an end. I'm individual, and I'm connected with the group, and I'm connected with all existence. So the soul is an evolving part of myself as a soul, let's call it that, is evolving from being an innocent young soul to being what we call an old soul, one that has a lot of experience and exposure.
And wisdom.
And wisdom.
But in this shift of identification, which we call the evolution of consciousness, which is the purpose of the podcast, how do we move into unconscious and conscious identification with soul? Because that means letting go of identification with body and mind and everything that people think is so important now. I am a CEO. I am a mother. That's not identification with soul. How do we make that leap?
Well, the soul is there when you're between lifetimes. It's there when you are born as a soul. It's there when you are an infant and a young person and an old person. The soul is always involved in the growth and development and evolution of consciousness. So it's never not there, it's always there.
But how do we move our attention to it?
How do you move your attention from?
So let's focus on you. How did that happen? Because I know your consciousness has not stopped at identification with soul. That's kind of been a beginning for you.
It's like it's a separate line of development because the traditions, Eastern traditions, tend to focus on um, being, awareness, bliss, emptiness, and not on a sense of soul. So it's something that came later for me because my identification was with the Eastern traditions primarily. And so that came later. However, it's not later. It's there all the time.
It's inherent, but it's not conscious.
It's inherent. It can become conscious. It's inherent because we always have a soul. We always are a soul, and that soul has qualities. And if it's a young soul, or an old soul, or a soul that is in conflict or developing, or a soul that is merging. I have awareness that I belong to a certain soul group. That soul group would be defined as here to help others grow through wisdom and love. And there are some structural teachings in the West that actually tend to define that. They don't look at it as soul necessarily. They often see it as aspects of personality. But at a deeper level, this is an aspect of the soul. So how do I get from where we were before, which was identification with the physical body, with emotions, with thoughts, beliefs, to a sense of being?
No, to a sense of I am a soul. I'm living as a soul. That's who I am.
Yeah, how do we get there? How do we get to that idea? Well, once one is aware, as let's put it this way, of being a conscious being, being bliss, being aware, one can become aware that this process we call life is happening because there is an evolutionary force that is partly our own soul making us grow. My soul was there before I was born. I remember being in the womb. When I woke up to being in the womb, I woke up to being a soul. I remember my mother's anxiety. I remember her love and joy at having me. I remember the process of being born, which was in some ways a relief and in some ways very devastating, very difficult, because I had to move from being fully nurtured and taken care of in the womb, fed and elimination, taken to a toxic environment in the womb, to a sense of moving through the birth canal, which left me with physical stresses in my body, to breathing, my first breath. I remember that. And how do I remember that? I remember that because I became aware. And some of that process of becoming aware was hypnosis, in which I did hypnotherapy to open that up. And some of it was just becoming aware of my identity later on as a conscious being.
I'm lost. I'm totally confused. What does this have to do with living as a soul?
Living as a soul means that I am unbounded, I am infinite, I am evolving. I am becoming. I am always in the process of doing that. I always was and always will be. My past lifetime that I shared with you all, I was a soul in that lifetime, and I identified as a soul. And when I left my body, I became more aware of myself as a soul. I went to Brahmaloka, to the place of enlightened beings, bliss consciousness, as a soul. As a soul, I became aware that this was boring. As a soul, that I wanted to incarnate again and experience the human journey. As a soul, I came back. And of course, I forgot, as all souls do when they're born. They forget that they're souls. They believe that they're their bodies, and they believe that they're their minds later on. And even later on, they believe that they're their egos, that part of ourselves that's totally separate, that's independent.
So I'm hearing this contrast between being or pure awareness or pure consciousness or Brahman and becoming, which is the soul's, the main quality of the soul. It's evolving.
Mm-hmm.
So how do these connect? How do you practice psychology or be a husband, knowing you're a soul and at the same time experiencing being, which is not becoming, not evolving?
Yes. Well, then one aspect of us is being. In other words, at being absolute, pure bliss consciousness. And another aspect of us is evolving. And we can only have these two aspects side by side or nothing.
What do you mean by nothing? You mean just conventional ignorance?
Well, yes, oh, nothing.
No awareness of being or becoming?
Being and becoming are apparently opposites, but they're both necessary to live the human existence. They're both required.
So we've spoken a bit about the opposites, the reconciliation of opposites in non-duality. So from your non-dual level of consciousness, how do being and becoming, or pure consciousness and soul, get reconciled or held together in your awareness?
Such a good question. How am I a soul evolving, and how am I at the same time pure awareness,
Yes.
not changing? How can I reconcile the fact that I am both, that both exist as myself?
Both of them are who you are.
Both of them are who I am, correct. They're just different levels of awareness, just different levels. The soul has to go through the ego process and is involved in the ego process in great depth. It's involved in each detail of our growth and our evolution. And obviously, at some point, the soul wakes up to non-duality.
Is it the soul that wakes up to non-duality?
At some point, it's the soul that wakes up to non-duality.
I thought it was awareness. I thought awakening happened in awareness. Does the soul become enlightened?
Yes. So I'm not clear on what you mean by awareness. Can you explain?
Well, my understanding is people keep saying to me, it doesn't happen in the mind, it happens in awareness.
Yes.
When we really wake up to who am I, to our true nature as consciousness, it doesn't happen, it's not a concept or a feeling. or a behavior. It happens in awareness, right? It's a state or stage of awareness.
Yeah, so awareness is a quality of soul. Soul is aware, and in fact, the entire existence of soul is growing to hold that non-duality. So growing through all the early stages of development of animal nature, which we were once animals or animal-like, all the way through the early childhood development, all the way through teenage development, adult development, community, all the way to a point of being a successful ego that's integrated, that's functioning with all its parts, to the soul and to being.
What does that mean? It's the soul that wakes up to pure consciousness?
Yes, it's the soul that wakes up to pure consciousness. The soul wakes up to the fact that it's always been and always will be.
So, what is that like for you? What is it like to experience that essence of you has always been and always will be? How does that affect your life?
Well, a good example was we were looking at these retirement communities that I mentioned in the last recording. And the one that we really liked, we were very disappointed because it seems to not be appropriate for many reasons, even though it's very exciting. So I experienced the full range of human excitement and joy and expectation, and yet I'm not limited by it. It actually passes very quickly if I don't get what I want. I don't get what I need. I move through it very easily. So there's no loss. I'm already moving into the next stage or so.
So there's an internal lack of attachment to the images and the desires and the feelings about them.
Correct.
And can you connect that to living as a soul?
The being as a soul means I am all of it. I am the person from my past lifetime. I am the person who left their body, who was married in that lifetime, who left their body and experienced the in-between states, the bardos or the astral mental planes, and the soul that moved to Brahmaloka, to a blissful place, and decided to come back. So that's the soul's journey, and the soul incarnated into my mother's womb. The soul did all of that. How did I become aware of that? So with time and meditation and inquiry and practice, I became aware of who I am. And that keeps growing, doesn't stop.
So with that awareness of living as a soul, these comings and goings of disappointments or people or events, how did they seem to you?
Transient and part of the evolution and guided and part of the growth of this perfect process of life. So there's a feeling behind it that there's a deity or a God or an entity,
Designer
who's creating this form and evolving it so that it becomes perfect. And that perfection in a sense that's endless, that has no end to it. In fact, I have a sense that whenever I grow there's always another level to grow to. And it's almost as if the designer of this process of human existence or existence is always looking to grow itself to the next level.
So we said that we were going to come back to this moment, and we didn't do that in the last podcast. Let's do it now. So who am I now in this moment?
Now I am the body, Neil, and I am everything. And these two can only exist in terms of each other.
They coexist in terms of each other. So they coexist as the local, finite body-mind Neil.
Yes.
And the infinite.
Well, being that is pure love, pure existence, pure bliss, without any identity as an I or a you or a we, without any a non-dual awareness. And these exist side by side.
And they exist in your life in every moment, no matter what you're doing.
No matter what I'm doing.
Is it about putting your attention on one of them or the other one?
It's always about putting attention on one or the other.
So if you're brushing your teeth,
I could be on brushing my teeth, or I could be creating a new universe.
As you brush your teeth?
Correct.
Okay.
It's not me who's creating the universe. It's, it's just awareness of that.
Awareness that something new is being created in this moment.
Yeah, the universe is being created new.
Oh, the universe is always being created in every moment, and you're brushing your teeth. So the universe is being created and destroyed as you brush your teeth. But let's clarify, you're not doing that. You're aware on the level of consciousness of the rising and falling, creating and creativity and destruction of life in every moment, in every instant, the coming and going, the creation and destruction of the moment as you brush your teeth. And so both are going at the same time.
Correct. But in fact, as I brush my teeth each way, up or down, the new universe is created at that moment. In fact, the old universe is dying and a new universe is created in that moment. So the soul has qualities, and those qualities include bliss, joy, being, movement, individuality, and family, and being a part of all of life, whether it's in a body or out of a body, whether it's awake, enlightened, or whether it's in ignorance. The soul is always there. It's always part of it all. It tends to be confusing for those who follow the Eastern tradition, because those traditions tend to focus on ego and transcending the ego, moving from, let's call it the mind, the intellect, all the way through to pure awareness and skipping out the middle stages of compassion, kindness, love, joy, humanity, the earth, the animal life, the joy of existing in this world, the celestial world, and the subtle realms, just missing all of that out in order to jump into pure awareness. And in essence, one has to come back and pick all of that up again, because the soul needs that growth. So there is no shortcut.
And that's why the soul reincarnates,
That's
to pick
right.
up the stages that were missed.
Or to go through them at first, and then if one has not gone through it, one needs to pick them up, because they're all part of the growth. One cannot actually have real growth without growing at all. And if one misses out, then there's a lot of pitfalls, as we know from our spiritual teachers, all going down wrong paths. Not lack of moral development, lack of human growth. Right.
So let's make a podcast on, spiritual shadow,
Okay.
and we'll explore that more deeply in a further conversation.
Sounds good.
So I just want to conclude here that my sense of living as a soul opens up the deep truth, the reality that I am not my Conniness, my individual story in this personal life. That at the level of soul, I am always evolving, I am ever present, I'm not born, I don't die, I continue. Maybe we could say soul is eternal. As it evolves from the human soul into the group soul, into the individual soul, and through our lifetimes with the force of evolution carrying it. And that gives me a very expanded sense of who I am. But it's just the beginning for you, Neil. It's not where you landed, it's the beginning, and it sets us up to explore further the evolution of the human soul. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in today. If you found our discussion insightful, there's a good chance your friends will too. And we'd love it if you could take a moment to share this episode with a friend who you believe would appreciate it. Help us spread the word and reach more people. And follow us on any platform. Turn on your episode notifications so you never miss new content. Thanks for being part of our podcasting journey.